Bit Digital recently exited Bitcoin mining to focus solely on its ETH treasury and staking plans. And now your company is announcing that it completed its transition to an Ethereum treasury strategy. So now Bit Digital shifted its entire treasury to Ethereum, becoming one of the largest ETH holders among public companies. Can you take us through what was behind the move?
Look, coming from an institutional background, I've been in this space for many years, and I feel like many investors felt like they missed on the Bitcoin wave. Ethereum represents that next wave. And, we're not just buying a coin, we're putting our reserves into a protocol that powers trillions of on-chain activity. We believe Ethereum we believe Ethereum is becoming a new category for as a strategic corporate asset, like gold and treasury bonds once were, but with one difference. Ethereum is alive. It moves with technological innovation. It has tens of thousands of developers on chain, more than any other blockchain, including Bitcoin or Solana. And also, Ethereum captures real activity, real economic activity. As stablecoin volumes grows, as tokenization becomes a thing, the fees generated by that activity flow back to ETH holders. And Bitcoin does not participate in that feedback loop, in that value loop. We believe Ethereum is where economic throughput is frankly heading.
Now, Bit Digital raised about $172 million and is using that capital to buy ETH. The company also sold more than 417 Bitcoin, which was the firm's entire remaining Bitcoin position, and used the proceeds to buy more ETH. So, where does the company stand now in terms of your ETH holdings, and will that capital be used for anything else? What are your plans?
That's right. We sold a profitable business. We exited a profitable business, Bitcoin mining, and we took the cash on our balance sheet and we sold all our Bitcoin. And we did this raise. I actually personally participated in that raise myself with my own savings, and we poured that all into Ethereum. We now have 100,000 Ethereum we have accumulated about 100,000 on our balance sheet, and we're just getting started. That's just the start. We're just getting warmed up.
We have seen growing adoption recently, but what else is it about Ethereum that makes you believe that the network has the ability to rewrite the entire financial system?
There is no second best to rewrite the financial system. Ethereum has something called smart contract technology, where you can actually program conditions between wallet A and wallet B. And when those conditions are met, value is being transferred. Also, tokenization is a real thing, and a lot of that is built on Ethereum. You can tokenize real world assets. In other words, you could digitalize real world assets or traditional assets like stock, like property and real estate, even art. And you could put that in the blockchain, and you could trade the digital version of that on the Ethereum blockchain. It's not possible to do that with Bitcoin. Ethereum is the blue chip institutional blockchain to do that, and it's the only one. There is no second best.
The Ethereum Community Conference just wrapped up in Cannes, and a topic of focus was on institutions as Wall Street's new plumbing is being built on the network. Some big names are betting big on Ethereum. That includes Robinhood, which just became the first publicly traded US company to launch tokenized stocks on chain using Arbitrum, a layer 2 built on Ethereum. What's your reaction to developments like that?
I think it's major that Robinhood is going to tokenize equities on Ethereum. Just take note, everybody. Ethereum is the only blockchain that really allows for this in an institutional manner. Robinhood is tokenizing equities on Ethereum. That's just the start. Eventually, Ethereum will eat the financial world. It will be the basic infrastructure layer in order to transfer value between parties without escrow agents. I believe that the financial system will be rewritten by Ethereum.
Now, we have seen stocks tied to the price of Ether rise recently, and that includes shares of Bit Digital. The moves higher reflect renewed enthusiasm for the asset amid a surge of interest in stablecoins and tokenization, as you mentioned. Those are two crypto industry trends largely supported by the Ethereum network, of course. Why do you think we're seeing this renewed interest in Ethereum, especially now?
I think there's been where the era of Gary Gensler is over. There's a much more friendlier SEC outlook with respect to projects on the Ethereum blockchain. You're also seeing a lot of legislative acts coming out of Congress One of them is the Genius Act, and I believe there's an upcoming one called the Clarity Act. And it makes it very clear with respect to legal rules around Ethereum, classifying Ethereum as as a commodity, just like Bitcoin. And I believe that legislative clarity it has been unleashing Ethereum so that it could be finally adopted by institutions worldwide. And that's one of the reasons why we're seeing Robinhood tokenized equities. There's a lot of legislative clarity, a much friendlier Congress towards crypto, and Gary Gensler is gone.
As Bitcoin ETFs snapped a 15-day streak of inflows recently, Ether ETFs saw $40 million in inflows led by BlackRock's iShares Ethereum Trust. ETH ETFs came back to life in June after much concern they were becoming zombie funds. Why do you think that is?
Well, look, one thing about ETFs and ourselves is that ETFs offer passive exposure to the price of Ethereum. But digital offers exposure plus yield. You can't really stake your ETH on ETFs. We can stake our ETH and we generate a real return on our holdings, currently around 3%. But that adds up when you compound it. So for investors, that's a much more efficient way to access Ethereum's economic upside through a public vehicle structure like BTBT, in which we're staking all our ETH. ETFs are not staking their ETH.